Good morning. I'm Jim Spencer. I'm with the Bluefield, West Virginia Economic Development Authority, and we are pleased this morning to have Caleb and Erica with the local Chick-fil-A. Caleb is a dynamic young man that he's faced adversity during COVID with his business, and he may talk a little bit about that. But I think right now, we were talking earlier this morning, with fewer people eating at sit-down restaurants, all restaurants are competing for this, and that pool of patrons is smaller. So what sets restaurants apart? I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say which restaurant, but my wife and I went out to eat about a year and a half ago before COVID, and great food. We had a good time, but the service was just not friendly. And my wife, if you know my wife, she's very direct. And she told me later that night, she said, "I'm not paying for people to be rude to me." And so I think customer service is more important today than it's ever been in my lifetime, especially with COVID, other things like that. So we're pleased this morning to have Caleb and Erica here. Go ahead and give a full introduction, because I know you've got a pretty good resume to look as young as you are.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, so my name's Caleb. I'm the owner operator at Chick-fil-A Mercer Mall. I'm originally from North Carolina, but have spent the last, almost year and a half here in Bluefield. Started working at Chick-fil-A when I was 14. So at a pretty young age, kind of wanted to go out in the workforce and learn what I could to kind of do with myself and to be successful. And so kind of found that love in Chick-fil-A. Worked for Chick-fil-A for 11 years in North Carolina. Worked my way up through the ranks in the restaurant, and then worked 3 years for Chick-fil-A corporate, where I traveled full-time across the country, opening and running Chick-fil-A restaurants that didn't have an owner-operator. And so that was one journey into a way of becoming an owner-operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant. Definitely had its own sacrifices and whatnot, as we moved 14 times in that 35-month span that we worked for corporate. And so my wife and my dog, and then my daughter was actually born not necessarily in a hotel, but her first house was a hotel. So I think by the time she was like 8 months old, she'd already been on like 5 planes. And I didn't ride on a plane until I was like 21, and it was with Chick-fil-A. So, and now being the owner of the Chick-fil-A here in Bluefield, it's been super cool. As Jim mentioned, I took over the ownership of the restaurant about 2 months before COVID hit. And so really had to get kind of creative and innovative. And that's where Erica, my marketing director, really came in and helped kind of make things happen. So, Erica.
My name's Erica. I've been with Chick-fil-A for about 8 years. Done a little bit of everything until Caleb came around, and then he decided to make me the marketing and catering director, because I love the customer service aspect of it. I love being out in the community, and I love getting involved with the community. So that's my little bit of a role in here.
Yeah. So what's really cool about Erica is when I take over a restaurant and became the owner, I got to interview every single team member that was currently on staff. I'm not obligated to bring back anybody. Fortunately, I think all but like one person was able to come back and work with us. And so one thing that Erica really highlighted in our time together was, number one, hey, what are we going to be doing for the community? So that's where the marketing aspect for her really came in. And then number two is, hey, what are we going to be doing for our team? I love the people aspect. I love giving back to the team, celebrating the team. And ultimately, as we kind of go out throughout the morning, that's really what we'll really mainly focus on from a customer service aspect. As I've been kind of brought up in the ranks of Chick-fil-A, I've really learned that there's really 2 priorities, I guess, as the owner or the main manager in the business. Is priority 1A is essentially your team. And if you take care of your team and you love on them and you celebrate those wins with them, they're essentially going to take care of priority 1B, which ends up being your guest. And so, as Jim mentioned earlier, have even had similar experiences with, even our family. Went to a restaurant, probably about a year ago or right when COVID happened. Great food, but we almost essentially got kicked out of the restaurant because my daughter was like year and a half. If you guys have kids, a year and a half year old, they have their own little tantrums, and the restaurant wasn't having it. So we got essentially kicked out. So not fun. My wife has essentially said, we ain't going back there. So, yeah, so love to, not sure how this typically takes place, but any interaction you guys have is great. If you send it in the chat, I guess, is great. And then if you guys have questions who are here, love to answer them as we kind of go about. So, yeah, so, we'll dive in. So, yeah, go ahead. So, so what do we base our customer service model on? So, a lot of people come to me. I've interviewed people all across the country from California to Massachusetts. And the one question that we always get is like, oh, it's got to be so awesome to work for a Christian company. Well, a company can't be a Christian, and we don't care what happens outside on Sunday, what your religious beliefs are. But, fortunately for us, Chick-fil-A was founded on really Christian principles. And that's one of the main reasons why we actually do have that Sunday off, because Truett, our founder, was a Christian and did like to go to church on Sundays. But essentially what that really means is we just put biblical ethics in a business world. And what that really narrows down to is honor, dignity, and respect, and treating those that come into the restaurant, whether you're a team member or a marketing director or, a guest who's never had Chick-fil-A, is treating them the way that you want to be treated. And that's service with a smile, that's with a warm greeting, that's with a fond farewell. And that's just everything that you expect, even in a fast food restaurant, within the Chick-fil-A model. So really just treating people the way that you want to be treated, with those honor, dignity, and respect aspects.
Then we just kind of take that and we try to take it a step further and go that extra mile. And Truett Kathy based that off of Matthew 5:41. Whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. And so Chick-fil-A just kind of took that, adopted it, and we've gone with it. It's done really great with us.
Yeah. And so Chick-fil-A, Truett's first restaurant was in 1946, called the Dwarf House. About 20 some years later, Chick-fil-A opened up in 1967. And when that first Chick-fil-A opened, even the Dwarf House, Truett was all about customer service and what that looked like. Enough to the point where the first building that the Dwarf House was located in was approximately about 20 foot by 24 foot. So very, very small. He actually purchased a house beside of that restaurant. It was open up 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. The joke kind of goes that they open up on a Monday, Saturday night at midnight. They all kind of looked at each other and said, I'm pretty tired. Are you tired? Let's close tomorrow. But like I said, there's a little bit more intentionality behind it. But Truett cared so much about that customer service aspect that he would be sleeping. It was in the 40s, so gravel driveway. He'd heard a bunch of people drive up in their cars. It was right close to the Atlanta airport. People getting off, working third shift, coming in for break. If he heard a lot of cars pulling in, he would actually get up out of bed, go help his team, and then go back to sleep. So that's how much he cared about that customer service aspect, even from the very beginning. So, and that's just continued, like Erika said, from the second mile service standpoint, really just going above and beyond, creating that wow factor with the team members and especially the guests. So.
We do have a question.
Okay.
If you would, can you see it on your screen on the laptop? It's okay, I can read it out loud for you, and if you'll recap when you go to answer what the question was, that would be great.
Okay.
So how do you think customer service at Chick-fil-A differs from other restaurants or businesses? How do you think other businesses can improve on customer service based on your experience at Chick-fil-A? Yeah, so what do I think is different about Chick-fil-A customer service, and how do you think other businesses can improve upon that? So, the first answer, I think, obviously every single business wants to provide customer service. That's, hopefully if you provide any type of service, whether it's plumbing or whatever, you want to provide a good level of customer service. What I think about is different within Chick-fil-A is, that is the standard, and the standard doesn't change. And unfortunately, especially in nowadays when hiring gets really tough, we're not going to change that standard to where we take anything less than kind of excellent customer service. And so if people don't uphold that standard, there's accountable conversations, and that might eventually lead to that person not working with us anymore, or that might lead to a change in attitude, what we talk about of behavior, performance, and attitude, the three things that you only can control. That might mean, them making a change in that. The second question, what can people do different within that customer service aspect? I really think is, going back to personal experiences. I think we can all sit down and think about a bad experience, or, think about a time where we've been really wowed. And so how do you reflect that into your level of service? And so I've always heard a story, or maybe this has been shared to me, I don't remember. There's a plumbing company that comes in, they have dirty shoes, they don't look the part, their pants are dirty, they don't ask you to take off your shoes before they go into your house or whatever. And then there's another plumbing service that, hey, they put on clear, like shoe covers when they walk into your house, they come in, they wear a name tag, they look professional. Who would you rather have come into your house, right? So you really just try to look at it from that level of, hey, what would you expect? And figure out what that model looks like for your business. So, yeah, go ahead.
So we're going to go over what we think is 5 key tips in customer service. They are training, atmosphere, being genuine, treating your guests right, and reading your guests. The first one's training. Training is a big one. Like Caleb said, the team is priority 1A. If you start training your team right, not only will it create a better, more efficient, safe work environment, but you're starting from the bottom. If your team members are not trained properly, they can't do any of the higher up things that are needed to do. And even as far as interacting with the guests, interacting with themselves too. If they are not treating each other with the same honor, dignity, and respect, you can't expect them to extend that to the guest. So what's behind closed doors is eventually what is going to show up with your guests later.
Yeah, and so that training for me specifically really starts with even within the interview, so really laying out that foundation of number one, what is that training going to look like? Hey, your day number one is going to look like an orientation where you learn the foundation and the principles of Chick-fil-A, and what I like to call the non-negotiables of, hey, this is your break food policy, this is, you got to be on time, all these different things. And then laying out again that, hey, you're going to spend 4 to 5 days with someone really learning what your job is going to be. So if your job's going to be a cashier for us, we're not going to just throw you to the wolves on day one and say, hey, good luck. There's there's pictures on the register, figure it out, let me know if you need me. We're really intentional about spending that time with them throughout the first couple of days to really make sure they understand exactly what A, they're going to be doing, and then B, what exactly is required of them. And so setting that standard of excellence from this day one is super important. And so, I often get the question, well, everybody at Chick-fil-A is so nice, and hopefully you guys have had, a great experience when you come to Chick-fil-A and any Chick-fil-A maybe across the country that you visit. And what's so unique is, again, I get the question, they must go to like Navy SEAL training, or there's like a specialized training or something like that. So what's kind of unique is every Chick-fil-A is independently operated. And the only thing that is the same is kind of the foundation of what they want you to teach. Like the register is the same, how you make a milkshake is the same, but every single restaurant's training methods are a little bit different. And so I think it goes back to, again, the importance that Chick-fil-A puts on everyone, even in my training when I went through Chick-fil-A, of what it looks like and what their standard of excellence looks like. Tell you another story. Chick-fil-A has been on this journey to expand our supply chain. And so we've been really hard on supply chain, enough to where Chick-fil-A is now in their own supply chain business. For a very long time, honestly, probably up until about 3 months ago, Chick-fil-A did not allow facial hair. All you could have was a neatly trimmed mustache. But this new supply chain building that they were going to build, They were going to allow facial hair, truck drivers. That's kind of a way of life. I get it. If I could grow a beard, I would now, but I can't. Not to mention my wife won't let me. But a guy with a kind of a Duck Dynasty beard kind of went into the Chick-fil-A home office to get a job, and he wasn't going to shave his beard at all. And they told him at the end of the interview, hey, you're cool, like to shave your beard, no harm, no foul. And he said, honestly, after the visit today and what you guys have talked about and the level of excellence that you want me to have and how you want me to look, I'm cool with it. And so he ended up shaving his beard. And so just kind of goes into what we talk about from day one, even at the support center and home office, about how that training and what that looks like. So, but even still into the training, people ask me, how are people so awesome at Chick-fil-A? And I always tell people, hey, I can train people a lot about Chick-fil-A. I can train you on how to make a sandwich. I can train you on how to take a register order. I can train you on all that stuff. The one thing I can't train you on, and God didn't give me with this ability, is I can't train you to be nice. I can't train you to smile. If you don't smile in the interview, you're probably not going to smile on my front counter. If you're not nice within the interview, you're probably not going to be nice when you take my order or whatever. So those are just kind of key things that I look for even before the training aspect, before they get on staff with us, of saying, what does that look like? So.
The second one we have is atmosphere. This one is easy to think about if you go with, like, where's your favorite place to go? What do you like about it? Chances are you probably feel comfortable there. Kind of feels a little bit like home. You don't feel out of place or like uncomfortable. So that's one thing that we put a focus on, again, not with just our team, but with our guests too. Try to make everybody feel as welcomed as possible, every interaction we have.
And so, to go back to a kid example, I think about my daughter who's almost 3 years old. Even her environment, what does that atmosphere feel like for her? If it's kind of warm, if it's welcoming, if it's inviting, she's going to be a little bit more open. She's much more like my wife, kind of shy, timid. I'm hoping she grows out of that and be a little bit more like me. But, if it's warm, if it's welcome, she's much more to kind of be in her cool zone and not throw a temper tantrum or whatever. So same thing from the guest environment, and especially from the team. So from the team aspect, just the things that we provide them, for example, like on day one. So like we take care of all of their uniform for them. That's something that they don't have to worry about. There's a nice banner that we hang up on their day one of first day of walking into the restaurant, of like making sure that they feel welcome, they feel warm, they feel invited. They get like a swag bag full of pins and cups and everything that they can to use within the restaurant. So just making them feel warm and welcome, almost like a family environment. And so, the one thing that I always talk about as a family environment is your family isn't always nice. Your family is typically kind. And so there's a difference in kind and nice, at least in my eyes. And so when I think about nice, someone who's nice, they may not always be truth tellers. They may withhold a little bit from you so that you don't feel like they're attacking you, so to speak. When I think about someone that's kind, I think about someone who's not afraid to be honest with you, not afraid to hold you accountable. If you're failing in school, who's the first person or first couple people to hold you accountable? Typically mom or dad or grandma or somebody. And so it's the same type of an atmosphere that we try to create within the restaurant, this family type environment. Hey, we're going to love you. We're going to care about you, what's going on inside and outside Chick-fil-A. Hey, we're also going to hold you accountable. We're going to try to get you to a new level of excellence that maybe you've never experienced before. And so that just goes a lot within what we try to do as a restaurant, try to have team outings, create this atmosphere of love and culture and development. I think about, even for me personally, and Erika can speak to this as well, like I wouldn't be here today without somebody saying, like, this redneck from North Carolina has got something. Let's pour into him and see what happens. And so that's been super, honestly, why I wanted to become an operator, of just wanting to give back and continuing to create those atmospheres that was created for me for future team members. So.
And we have team members that have super big goals. We have future vets future biochemical engineers. We have team members with such big goals, and that is one of the big things that we work towards, is kind of helping them grow and get to where they need to be so they can achieve those goals. And so that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. And always trying to relate back, how does that success look like in the restaurant? So, we obviously have goals on speed of service and fast attendant courteousness and order accuracy. And so, hey, how does that matter to someone who wants to be a vet, right? Well, I can tell you, if you're not fast in an emergency vet situation, that customer is going to be pretty mad, right? If their dog or animal isn't taken care of appropriately. You think about order accuracy. If you order the wrong medicine for your dog or something like that, like that's a big deal. And so always trying to relate back to, hey, this is something for Chick-fil-A, but how can that affect you in, quote unquote, the real world? So
Compassion, attention for detail, anything like that. Our next one is being genuine, excuse me. This one is probably the most important, but can be the most difficult for some people. You have to be genuine. The guests have to know that it's not just a fake smile, like Caleb said. If you're not smiling in your interview, you're probably not going to smile to the guests. And if you are, you can probably tell it's forced. And that's not what we want to do. Like, we're glad you came to dine with us. We're glad you trust us enough during times like these to take care of you and serve you right. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to train and hire a team that is just genuine and good and kind to our guests.
Yeah. Even more so important now, we talked about going the second mile earlier. That deals a lot with what we call kind of the core four. We want to make sure people are, one of those core four is, hey, we want to smile with you. We want to invite you in. It makes you feel warm. It makes you feel welcomed. Well, it's kind of hard to smile right now behind a mask. So we've almost had to create this smizing thing, smiling eyes. And so a lot of my team members, I can really tell when they're smiling because their eyes kind of squint a little bit, or, their cheeks come up above their mask. So I can tell that they're smiling because it's genuine. There's no room. A lot of people say, you fake it till you make it. There's no fake it till you make it to be genuine within Chick-fil-A. And so, hopefully within the experiences that you've had, it's been very genuine. It's not been forced. Again, because of the accountability that we put on our team, because of that customer service that we want to create so much for our guests, we really emphasize the importance of just being genuine, being proactive within that, and not making that forced smile and forced engagement. So.
Our next one is treating your customers right. This one's probably the one that we're most known for. We do our best, we do it right. We treat everybody with honor, dignity, respect. Going that extra second mile, it seems kind of repetitive, but it's such the core focus of what we do at Chick-fil-A that it really is kind of the basis of everything.
Yeah. And what we try to do is, what does that look like, treating people right, kind of just beyond the transaction? And so that really is where Erika steps in, especially in that marketing role of, hey, where can we partner with an organization? Where can we, put our kind of footstep into Bluefield to help people beyond just coming into Chick-fil-A? So, and a lot of people obviously understand that from a Chick-fil-A perspective. And that's why they also love to eat with us. It's not just all about profits and making money. It's about who can we give back to, who can we affect, that may not even eat at Chick-fil-A. It's still funny to me, honestly, sometimes still today, we still get a lot of people that have never ate at Chick-fil-A. And so even though we've been around for 50 years, 50 plus years, we've really only taken off over the last maybe 15 or 16 years. I remember in 2005 when I started Chick-fil-A, it was like cool to work there. And honestly, my break food has changed a little bit. I used to get whatever I wanted to on break, and that ain't happening anymore. But it's so much more about, affecting people beyond just people coming to the restaurant. It's giving back, affecting people in ways that they may not even be able to. And then that goes back to the team. hey, how can we affect you in ways that you may not have ever felt before? And again, I almost look at my role in the restaurant as almost being like a head coach of a football team. Erika and my other director team are kind of my assistant coaches, and so really pouring into them so that they can pour into the team members. Because again, it goes back to, hey, if you treat your team right, number one, you're not turning over people as much. You're not I don't want to use the word wasting money to train new team members, but you're not having to spend excessive amount of money to train new people that haven't been around for a while. You know, a lot of our team members have been around 6, 7, 4, 3 years. And so the amount of a veteran attitude of a 3-year team member versus someone that's just been around for 6 months who hasn't fully grasped the idea of what Chick-fil-A can do for them, it goes a long way. And not only does it go a long way for your team members because they automatically feel more welcomed and at home, but it goes a long way for your guest, because those guests know, hey, if I go to see Carmen, who's been around with us for 6+ years, hey, I know that Carmen's going to know me. I know that Carmen's going to know my order. I know that Carmen's going to get it right for me, versus a little bit more maybe weariness around maybe someone who's new. So.
And our next one is reading your guests. This one's probably a really big one too. We have our standard, we're nice, we're outgoing. We try to make you feel welcome. But say you have a guest that's coming in and you can just tell they're having a bad day. We try to maybe not so much talk to them as much, but do small things to just kind of help turn their day around. Every life has a story. You don't know what anybody is going through that day. You don't know if they've had a bad day, if they've had a good day. You don't know if they just got, news about being terminal or lost a family member, or even if they've just had a great day and are just loving life that day. You never know. So we have a video to show you guys. Yeah, get it ready and then we'll switch everything over.
Now it's not going to switch. There it goes.
Cool.
So as you can see, every life has a story. You just have to kind of take the time to get to know it. And that's what at Chick-fil-A we want to do. We never want to detract from someone's day, make it worse. You never know what they're going through, but we want to be a positive light on their day, even if it's something small. You never know what kind of difference you can make in somebody's day.
Yeah. And, I get a lot of times two different kind of things, hey, number one, I never get a bad experience at Chick-fil-A. It's always great. Well, I can stand here today and tell you every day we mess something up, whether it's we mess up an order or something happens crazy in the restaurant, something happens. So we are by far not perfect at all. No one is, but we obviously appreciate the great comments. But the other side that I get is, hey, you guys are like almost overly too nice. And so that's where really reading the guest really comes into account, because you never really know what's kind of going on, especially in kind of the pandemic era, especially going into last year. You didn't know what was going on. Did that dad just miss his wife having birth? Did they haven't seen their grandmother in a year, whatever the case may be. It's so important to read that guest and kind of know what's going on. And really what we try to do after they've made it through the interview process, and I've drilled them a little bit, and they come into day one for that orientation day, that really starts with me, and being open and being vulnerable and sharing them about my story, to allow them to say, hey, this guy might have been a little bit of a mean person in the interview. That's kind of a little bit about my job. So that way they know it's going to be a tough place to work. It's going to be fun and it's going to be accountable, but it's going to be a great opportunity for you. But then when they come in that first day, hey, I get to share a little bit more about me. They get to know more about my family, my story, why I want to be an operator. And hey, I want to hear more about them too. Hey, tell me more about why you want to be at Chick-fil-A. Hey, what does that look like as you walk around the team and walk around the restaurant? Hey, let's get to know each other. Let's do an outing here soon, just to kind of know more about what's going on, and honestly, what's kind of brought you to where you are today? Why are you sitting in this restaurant to where I have an opportunity to speak with you? So it's super important that as we move forward, that customer service level of knowing your guest, just taking that 2-second time to say, hey, I see that you're wearing a white shirt. You must love white shirts, or, whatever the case may be. Oh, you got a West Virginia shirt on. You must love going to West Virginia and seeing basketball teams and celebrating with the coach as they make milestones within that organization. And so just that little second of extra time goes a long way in either, somebody may be having a bad day or, having a great day. We just really take that as a huge opportunity for us to make a big difference. If they've chosen to spend, $8, $9, $10 with us, that might be the only opportunity that they have to eat out at that week. And so if that's an opportunity that we have to make that awesome, that's great. But the other factor is, we don't know, that might be the only other interaction they have with someone outside of maybe family members or whatever kind of crazy stuff's going on in their life. So we really just make that a huge emphasis to the team. So that way they know, hey, it's important to me. It's important to Erika and the director team. And so, hey, we need it to be important to you too.
And then we just got a couple quotes from our founder. Chick-fil-A is what it is today because of people, purposes, and product. So that just kind of wraps in everything we've said. Chick-fil-A, the brand itself didn't make itself. It's our team and the people that believe in our cause and, everything that we stand for. That is what made it. That, along with just serving great food by great people. That is our end goal.
Yeah. Truett always said, we're not in the chicken business, we're in the people business. And I never really truly grasped what that meant, especially as I was coming up through Chick-fil-A. But that really hit home for me, 2 months into owning a new restaurant, moving into a new community. And this COVID stuff happens. We get the call, March, 18th, that the mall is going to be closing. And I unfortunately had to go to my team the next day and say, hey guys, I I don't know how I'm going to pay you anymore. The best thing I can recommend to you is go draw unemployment. And so, you know, that will probably go down as maybe one of the most difficult days I'll ever have as an operator in maybe a 40 or 50-year career. To tell someone 2 months into owning a restaurant, number one, you know, how am I going to, you know, make it for my family? And number two, my 30 to 35 people that I have employed at my restaurant, it's a big deal for me to make sure that they're well taken care of. As I told you earlier at the beginning, you know, my team is priority 1A. And so if I want to make sure they're well taken care of, obviously that means being able to pay them. And so we are truly in the people business. And I think that can be reflected in any business that you have. You take care of your people and you get people on your staff, which may be a little bit harder sometimes than not, that have a drive and a desire to succeed in your vision. It's going to be successful.
My business grew on the understanding that customers are always looking for somebody who's dependable, polite, and will take care of them. You know, Truett knew this from the beginning. We've always been focused on people, just to emphasize that even more. You know, like Caleb said, if we take care of our team will take care of us. But same with our guests. If we take care of our guests and we treat them right and we serve them great food, they're also going to take care of us in the way that they'll keep returning to us.
Yeah, that first restaurant that I mentioned previously, the Dwarf House, that Truett opened up in 1946. Truett actually passed away about 6 years ago in 2015 in September. But before he passed away, the old Dwarf House had blue menus. And it was pretty cheap back then, I guess, theoretically based upon, you know, prices today. But there were about 24 people or 24 families that he kept well in contact with, you know, 50 years later. And so these special individuals, they were in their 80s or 90s at that time. They got blue menus. And they could go to the restaurant at any time as long as they lived and provide them that blue menu, and they could pay whatever the price was at that time. So at that restaurant, you know, they also serve steak, they serve burgers. So a burger, I think, was like 30 cents or something crazy. So burger might be $15 today. I don't know. The restaurant's actually closed down due to a remodel. They're expanding it, but they're always going to pay 30 cents. And so people want to find someone that's dependable, someone they can count on, and that just might be a Chick-fil-A operator. So, go ahead.
Okay, and again, if I can read it to you, you kind of recap and answer, that'd be great. So this is kind of a two-part. I'm going to read the whole thing and we can address it. Do you believe that you have just hired a great team, or does Chick-fil-A training turn them into a great team? I've seen difficult teams get hired, and it's like night and day. What do you believe causes this?
So do I feel like Chick-fil-A hires great people, or does Chick-fil-A make great people, essentially?
Yes.
I honestly think it's a little bit of both. I think number one, you know, I can't teach someone to smile. I can't teach someone to want to be successful. To go back to something I said earlier, you know, behavior, performance, and attitude. I can speak to a lot of people and I can speak to a team member, good or bad. But if they don't have the mindset to have a good attitude that day, doesn't matter how much I preach or Erika preaches or any of my other leaders in the restaurant, it isn't going to happen. That's a decision they have to make. So I can't make that for them. So I think it is based upon kind of the standard we have within interviews. I can ask some pretty deep questions within the interview. I actually asked a 16-year-old girl yesterday in the interview process, hey, tell me your most difficult moment that you've ever had in your life. And she's like, I don't know. I failed a test last week, you know. So we ask pretty deep questions. The other process, you know, thinking about, you know, does Chick-fil-A create great team members is yes, I think so. And Erika may be able to speak to this more, but, you know, I look at me again today, I'm just a pretty simple guy, grew up on a farm, my grandparents had, and so there's no reason that I should be even standing here today owning a restaurant or speaking to you guys without someone really pushing me forward and giving me opportunity that otherwise I wouldn't have had.
We just kind of we love on our team, and it kind of helps bring out the best in them. Like if you ever take the time to look at our social media, I lead with my team. They are important. They are the heart of our restaurant. They are the face of it. And I want to show them off and show off their achievements. Like this week, I'm focusing on our seniors. You know, just like last year, this year hasn't been easy on them for their senior year. So I'm trying to make sure that they know that we are so proud of them. We are giving them the recognition they need, and we try to do that with all of our team throughout the year, every day.
Two more questions.
Sure.
So question number one, how long is training for a new hire, and does this depend on their position?
So typical training is anywhere from 4 to 5 days. It doesn't matter the position. If you're a front of house team member, you learn all aspects of front of house. So that might be anything from cashier to order taking to beverage making. You know, even kind of getting creative here at the mall, our drive-through outside. So that training is typically 4 to 5 days. But it is geared towards you. If you feel like after that 4 to 5 day training, you need more time, then hey, we're willing to invest that in you. And so that is a relationship that trainer, there are certain people in the restaurant that's all they do. They're specialized, they've been promoted, that's what they do. That's their first level of leadership, to train new team members. And so they've been a relationship with them, open communication from day one. And so, hey, if that person feels like, hey, I need a couple more days, then we're more than willing to do that. So.
Question two, can you share some insights on the standard of excellence, and can you define this a little more in depth?
Yeah. So, you know, I'm a big quote guy, and I'm not a big football guy, but I really enjoy Dabo Sweeney, and I know that's like, you know, saying like Satan up here in West Virginia, but you know, he has a couple of things that he says, hey, if you're going to be great, you can't ever be satisfied. And so I think what I've tried to do within the restaurant is, hey, your best today, and I tell this to my directors a lot, hey, your best today is not going to be good enough for tomorrow. And so you always constantly have to be kind of reinventing yourself, whether that be a book or a podcast or being challenged within the restaurant, to make yourself better. The other thing, and this kind of goes back to what Truett used to say, is you have to strive for perfection and settle for excellence. And so no one's ever going to be perfect. That person was nailed to a cross 2,000 years ago. But what we can be is we can be a level of excellence. And so on this journey to perfection that we may never reach, excellence can be found. And so, you know, I don't necessarily think there's a great definition based upon the business. You know, for excellence for us, it's, hey, the simple things, the small details, being on time, showing up in a good, clean uniform, in a full uniform, with a smile, being able to want to be better, being able to always give 110%. We're going to know if you're not, being able to work with a sense of urgency, being able to multitask. You know, maybe to kind of sum it up in kind of one full thing is being excellent at making good decisions on your personal behavior, performance, and attitude. One person's level of excellence is definitely different than someone else's. And so also knowing your team enough to know that, hey, Erica's level of excellence is different than another director of John. And knowing your team well enough to know, hey, Erica's greatness is different than John, and how do you tier that a little bit differently to each person?
Another question.
Okay.
Have you noticed a trend in the quality and caliber of new hires based off your location? For example, like a large city versus a more rural demographic?
Yes and no. So I think back to Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Hiring there was extremely difficult. A lot of individuals on work visas, a lot of people that were there just knowing they were only going to be there for a certain amount of time frame, as it's pretty touristy. But the caliber that Chick-fil-A, I think, specifically attracts, they know that they're not going to get by with, you know, not showing up on time, not looking professional.
not them wanting to know that, hey, I'm going to have to give my best today. There's no kind of slacking that's going to be taking place. But that being said, I do think it looks different. And so in San Diego, California, that level of integrity and that level of intentionality looked a lot different than Cape Cod. But I think and most businesses, I think, can say this, the person, you attract the people that you want to attract. And so if you have a level of excellence and people know that about you, they're not going to waste their time thinking, okay, I can get by with, only showing up 3 days out of the 5 that I need to work, or, whatever the case may be. I recently had a team member who came to me and said, hey, I just think that we need to part ways. And I'm like, okay, well, like, why do you think you need to leave? You worked here for like almost a year and a half. And he's like, well, I've kind of just decided that there's not a lot of time to like chill. Like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, there's not a lot of time to like relax. Well, like, what do you want? Well, I just want some time to like not have to do anything. And so this individual loved cars. And so I provided him the example, of Elon Musk. And so Elon Musk, the inventor of Tesla, electric car genius, he's not sitting around wanting people or wanting someone else to reinvent electric cars. He's like, I want to buy one. I don't want to buy one. I want to make one. And so he invented that. He wasn't sitting around for someone else to make that happen. And so I think that goes back to, he's going to hire people that want also that same drive. And so if people know you have a great level of excellence, those are the people that you're going to attract. So that's a long answer, but cool. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a lot of what we wanted to cover today. Would love to answer any other questions, whatever time allows for us. So, anything you guys have in person or on the beloved Second Nature Zoom these days.
I apologize, I had to step out just for a minute.
Yeah.
I tell people that a lot of times in life we do this.
Mm-hmm.
We all have mountains, we have valleys. What suggestions do you have maybe for somebody who's managing people to keep their employees doing this? You have ups and downs.
Yeah.
And not do this. And for me, it's, dealing with the problem before it gets to here becomes a critical issue. Is there anything special that you all do to, if you have an employee that maybe was short or whatever, how do you deal with those? This is more of an HR type thing, but if you don't deal with it, it becomes this versus trying to stay up here. Does that
Sure.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like you mentioned, really, so the question was, how do you deal with ebbs and flows in the business with HR, and rather than having, huge mountains and valleys in HR, kind of more of an ebb and flow, you're always going to have a little bit of ebb and flow. So how do you keep that to a minimum? I really think it, kind of like you mentioned, Jim, almost, making it a big deal before it is a big deal. And so me taking the time, or my HR director taking the time to really address problems before they make a problem. And so I noticed, again, even an example last week, we know our team so well that we know when they're off. And so last week we had a team member who just kind of seemed a little bit off. They seemed a little bit different. Erika pulled them aside. Hey, like, what's going on? What's happening? Well, hey, I had a family member or a good friend, I believe, pass away. And I just found out this morning, something's not adding up. It doesn't make sense to me. And so taking the time to make it a big deal before it is a big deal. But then again, people are going to leave. I always try my best to have some type of exit interview of like, hey, people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses. And so I always come back to that quote of like, okay, what did I do, or what did one of my leaders do, or what happened within the role to make them leave? And so always, again, trying to make us better as an organization. So.
I think a lot of that is being aware.
Yeah.
You've got to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the organization.
For sure.
And
Okay.
Can you really make any drink frosted at Chick-fil-A?
Erica, you want to answer that one?
Theoretically, yes, but no.
Yeah.
We have our frosted lemonade, strawberry lemonades, and we've decided as an area just to stay consistent and not have anybody, upset with one of us but not with the other. We've decided that we're not going to do that, just to kind of uphold our brand standards and to serve everybody equally with excellence.
Yeah. It is, at the end of the day, go ahead.
No.
No.
I like the April Fool's joke that you guys did at the Chick-fil-A sauce.
Oh, yeah.
I was surprised at how many people
Yeah.
thought we were going to do that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Even my mom got that one, Yeah, so every Chick-fil-A has a basic menu, but there are certain things based upon demographically that Chick-fil-A has felt like, hey, would be more successful in other areas. And so some certain things are what they call owner discretion, to say, hey, you have the ability to do this. Here's the correct procedure to do this. So some things within Chick-fil-A may be available at some restaurants because it makes more sense for them. It's been highly requested or whatever, while other things, it may not make sense. So kind of depends.
In our audience, any questions to conclude this call? We got another question in the chat box.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to recap in case they can't hear me. He said, I guess this is a strange question. Do you think the standards of excellence in the workplace evolve with technology in the restaurant industry?
Does the standard of excellence evolve with technology in the restaurant? Yeah, I think in some ways. Yeah, go ahead.
It does, but the standard, even though it evolves, is still there. We might become more technology reliant, but technology is still manned by people. And so the standard still has to be there with the people behind the technology. Otherwise, it's still not going to transfer. The guest is still not going to feel that. Our technology's grown, like we can take your order in line. We created a drive-through outside of a mall. So technology has definitely grown with us, but we still had to, our people still had to grow with it. So even though technology expands, we have to be able to still keep that same level of excellence.
So can you talk a little bit about you guys shifting operations during COVID, and then ultimately, I guess that's how the curbside thing came to be. Can you talk about kind of like that process?
Yeah.
So about 2 days after we got news that the mall closed, Caleb called me and said he got news about we might be able to borrow a food truck from a Chick-fil-A out of town and do that to kind of help keep serving our community, still give some of our team members jobs. Of course, we couldn't do it for everybody, but it worked out. We had some people that didn't feel comfortable coming back right now in the height of the pandemic, but we had some people that were all on board and excited to do it. So we got our food truck out there and we started a drive-through process with it, which if you ever visited us at our food truck, we took your order on the iPad. Unfortunately, we were unable to accept cash at the time, but so we did that. And then we got to thinking people really enjoy being able to do this with us. So how can we continue this when we open back up in the mall? And Chick-fil-A One, our app, is been growing over the last couple of years. And one of the options that they had was curbside. And so usually when Chick-fil-A's do that, it's curbside parking spots and they come and find you at a parking spot. So one of our goals was to figure out how we can make that work for us. So I kind of had the idea to do a drive-through with curbside, and Caleb knew a couple operators that did something similar. He got some more background from them on how it worked. And so we decided that, to help accommodate the guests that still might not feel comfortable coming inside to dine with us, but still wanted to dine with us. We could serve them from the comfort of their car, still keep up social distancing. And so we stuck with that. And then everybody just enjoyed it so much. We kept it, and we evolved with our drive-through, got a booth so we could protect our team members during the elements. And so.
Yeah,
that's
I
that.
think it, you know, I think at one point it was like, hey, we're going to do it. We started on May 22nd when we reopened back into the mall, when the mall reopened. And I told them, hey, we're going to do this until people kind of feel comfortable. We got to just find ways to provide more people opportunities for jobs. And hey, I got to make a living. And so it just kind of evolved to like, hey, we're going to get rid of it eventually, to where now, as you know, it's not going away at all. And so it's pretty cool now that the drive-through and the curbside option, if you don't have the app, or if you do have the app, it's the curbside option. If you don't have the app, the drive-through option, it's almost certain days it can be up to like 45% of the business. And so, you know, it goes back to kind of being innovative and you know, maybe back to the technology piece. Hey, we had to get smart around a couple of things, iPads with cellular and MiFi devices, and, you know, a toll booth and a mall parking lot and all this other stuff. But what didn't change throughout that was, you know, the expectation of hey, customer service. So it doesn't matter if they came in, it doesn't matter if they ordered on the app, it doesn't matter, if you know, whatever, the customer service expectation doesn't change. And so one unique difference in, you know, specifically like if you order curbside with us versus curbside at another Chick-fil-A restaurant, is, hey, we have that person out there pretty much the majority of the day checking in with every single person that gets in line with us, just to go, again, that second mile of making them feel like they connected with a person, not just kind of using technology. So because that person interaction is really what made Chick-fil-A today. And as much as I think technology is going to grow within the next several years, like there's people at the support center in Atlanta where Chick-fil-A is based out of, like looking at like virtual reality and things way above my pay grade. The piece that's never going to be different is the people piece, and that customer service aspect. So yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's cool.